happen to him? He's in a prison, right? So what could happen? He could stay living right where he is. He could die in prison or by some other means. Or he could have his freedom and be released from prison. And he says, whatever happens will turn out for my deliverance. All right, so whichever happens to him, any of these three options, he's okay with. He's accepted that those three things will be great. He goes on to say that I will in no way be ashamed, but will have sufficient courage, so that now, as always, Christ will be exalted in my body. So we've already talked about whatever happens, happens. He's good with that, but he won't be ashamed. Why would he be ashamed? Like, why would he be ashamed in prison? It's not like he killed somebody or hurt his wife's friend's baby or something like that. It's not the situation that he's in. He's in prison for preaching the gospel, and he says that, like, whatever happens, if he lives, if he gets out of prison, or if he dies, he's not going to be ashamed. Why is that? And then he kind of answers that in verse 23. He says, "For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." It's kind of his purpose. That's his driving force. We know that Paul didn't used to be called Paul. He used to be called Saul, and he used to kill Christians. Ooh, that's kind of... But he's a different man. He's a changed man. He had an encounter with God. He was blinded, and then he could see, and now he's a missionary spreading the gospel everywhere. To him, Christ is the center of everything. And now he's in prison, and he says, "For to live is Christ, and to die is gain." To live means that he can go on preaching the gospel, that he can keep sharing the good news, keep sharing about Jesus and his work on the cross and the power that transformed his life from a hating, persecuting person into one who is who he killed. And then he says the second part, to die is gain. Now, when most of us think about death, we don't really think happy thoughts, like you die and then you don't live life anymore. Like, most unbelieving people think that there's nothing after death. But as Christians, and Paul, there is something else for us after death. We get to be with Christ. We get to go to heaven and see God, and just there we have another life. And so Paul's saying here, whatever happens, I'm good. I've done what I was supposed to do on this earth. And if I die, that's great. The gospel's still being preached. The Philippian church, they're spreading the gospel just like when Paul came to them and told them about it. They're doing what Paul was doing. So he's good. He's excited, and he can go either way. And now, the next part in this letter is a little weird to me. When I write a letter, I used to write letters a lot when I was a kid because I liked getting mail. Little kids like to get mail. They run down to the mailbox so excited, and they open it up, and what do you find? Stuff to your parents. Really, seriously. I never got letters unless it was like my birthday or Christmas, and they were cards, not letters. So my friends and I decided that we would write letters to each other so we would feel special. And let me tell you, as a 9-year-old girl, I didn't have much to say in a letter. And like this one time, I wrote a letter, and it was like to my best friend, and I was like, "Dear Cammie, how are you doing today? My day's going great. I'm watching SpongeBob SquarePants, and it's so funny, and I wish you were here watching it with me, but you're not. But I'm really excited because your birthday party is coming up, and I already bought you a present, and, it's just like fluffy stuff, And I was a weird little kid. I'm still kind of weird now, too, but I did not like to waste paper, not because I wanted to, save the trees, but because I didn't want to, have to throw away another piece of paper. I was lazy. And so, when I wrote a letter, dude, whatever got on that paper was what the person got to read. I didn't, tear it up and start again. I just went for it. Nowadays, there's a computer and you can type it and delete, and much easier. Anyway, so I would just write. And here we have Paul, and he's writing this letter to the Philippians, and I think a person who has a lot of time on their hands would kind of know what they'd want to put in a letter before they actually start writing a letter. So here he is, writing this letter, and this next part comes up. And it's kind of picks up in verse 22. It says, "If I am to go on living in the body, this will mean fruitful labor for me. Yet what shall I choose? I do not know. I am torn between the two. The desire to depart and be with Christ, which is better by far, but more necessary for you that I remain in the body." And so right here you kind of have this piece that's like Paul talking to himself in a letter to another group of people, and he's like revealing this internal struggle that he is going on. The struggle between life and death. The desire to go be in heaven with Christ, and the desire to continue to preach the gospel. And he's kind of having this internal debate out in front of everybody. And I think it reveals a lot, but it reveals a lot about Paul because he's being really open and honest with these people. But it's also kind of funny to me at the same time, because if I were to write that letter to my friend, I wouldn't write a letter. It's not cool to write a letter where you'd be like, oh, I'm so excited for your birthday party and I've already picked out your present, but I don't know if I really want to go anymore. I mean, you're my best friend and all, but my parents promised to take me to ice cream, and my dad's home, and you don't do that to your friend. You don't write them a letter telling them you're thinking about not coming to their party. So it's kind of weird for Paul to write these people and be like, I think I kind of want to die, but I'm not sure. And it's a big deal for him that he's going on internally, but it seems kind of funny in this situation, considering he's already explained the scenario to him and what's going on, and he continues to explain it. And so we're going to pick up in verse 25. He says, convinced of this, I know that I will remain, and I will continue with all of you for your progress and joy in the faith, so that through my being with you again, your joy will overflow on the account of me. Oh my goodness. So pretty much he says, I know I'm going to be with you again. What right does he have to say that? He is a prisoner. He is not the prison guard. He's not the prison warden. He is not the king. He's nobody. He is a person in prison, in an impossible situation. And here he is saying, I'm going to be with you again. We're going to be reunited. We're going to get to be together, and it's going to be a joyful experience. That is amazing. To be in that situation and to have that struggle of, it's okay for me. I'm not going to be ashamed if I am killed or died because I get to go to heaven. But to have that struggle between life and death, and to be in his situation, I'm going to live. That's it. I'm going to come back and be with you. That's pretty intense. And how does he know that's what's going to happen? How does he know all these things? And well, we know earlier from Dr. Ehler's sermon that he prayed a lot. And it could be possible that the Holy Spirit told him. We don't know. But what we know is that Paul is certain that God's work with him is not done yet. And then we kind of get into this last part. And when I had to read this last part a few times because it comes off sounding a little arrogant to me. He says, so that through my being with you again, your joy in Christ Jesus will overflow on account of me. That seems kind of selfish. By me coming to you, you guys are going to be happy again, and it's going to be great. No, that's not the kind of guy Paul is. If you've ever read anything, words have a different meaning than what the author was probably trying to say. So what most scholars believe is that Paul didn't mean it hey, I'm going to be that guy, with the leather jacket and the cool bike, and he's going to come up to you and be like, hey, we're going to go on a date and you're going to like it. Hey. No, he's not that guy. He's talking, it comes back to his passion. What's mentioned before, his passion is Christ and the gospel and doing what God has called him to do. And so he's done that, and we've talked about he's fine with what he's done, and he knows that the Philippian church is doing that too. And so what he's saying here, what he means here, is that when they come back together, when they get to see each other again, it's going to be an awesome party for Jesus, and everyone's going to know about it. Because here's Paul, who already has this amazing life story, and now he's in prison, and he's saying that he's going to get out. That's going to be an awesome story because he did not give up on his passion. He did not let his passion bring him down despite his situation. He had joy in an impossible situation. And because of that, by coming back to the Philippians, they're all going to be encouraged by this whole situation because the Philippians have participated with him. They have sent him friends, they've sent him letters, they've sent him food, they've sent him money, and they have continued to live Christian lives because their passion is the same as Paul. Their passion is Christ, and to live like Christ, and to be transformed by that. And this all comes back to my question. What is your passion? What are you passionate about? What drives your life? In high school, I was reading a book. I don't remember what the book was. I can't tell you who the author is. I know it's bad. That's before I became a good student and learned to, when I find a good quote, to cite the author. Anyway, but the quote is still important all the same. It says, your passion